Welcome back to this episode of the Shooting Bricks podcast. And damn, was it a very eventful 8 hours as we're recording this? Because to tell you the truth, nothing really happened the first 3 days of the week. And then all of a sudden, everything exploded Wednesday morning when we least expected it. And we'll get into all of that. But first, as always, I'm Jerry Castillo and I'm joined by.
I'm Daniel Huang. Public service announcement. This is not really related to basketball, but I have not seen any episodes of Loki yet, so don't spoil it. And joining me as well.
Okay. The world of basketball, NBA, WNBA, it's like the greatest reality TV show ever because so much drama, so much things going on. But you already know who it is. It's your boy, Brother Graham, Gerrel says.
And before we get into all the topics, I just want to, on Daniel's point, just a really quick reminder, please don't spoil things because it ruins the fun for everyone. Don't be that guy or that person. Just don't spoil things. Let people enjoy it and let people see what they want to see and in the comfort of their own time. But that being said, the NBA is a reality show. We never know what to expect. And perhaps actually, you know what? Yeah. Perhaps the most surprising thing is the fact that Gerrel and I, we're both wearing Kawhi Leonard jerseys. You can't see it on the audio, but on the video, we are. I'm wearing the Clippers one. Jarrod's wearing the really fresh Raptors We the North jersey. And we're wearing these jerseys because it's for Kawhi Leonard. This was really devastating news. I'm not a Clipper fan by any means, but I am a basketball fan. And just knowing that the first few games of the Utah Jazz, you know, Los Angeles Clippers series was kind of weird, but then games 3 and 4, everything was kind of ramping up and it was going to be a great series. And then Shams dropped this bomb that Kawhi could have an ACL injury, maybe a tear or something, but he's out indefinitely and he could potentially, well, he will miss the entire series if it's a massive ACL tear. Now, it's really interesting because he told his teammates that they should prepare for him to miss game 5 and beyond. And obviously, with an ACL tear, it's never great. And the fact that so many stars have missed the postseason already because of injury, and the fact that he was playing so well too. I mean, he was averaging like 30 plus points on 50 plus on most of the shooting splits. And yet it's over essentially because of an ACL injury. And so, guys, thoughts on the Kawhi injury? Because I think this is just devastating. If you're a basketball fan, it's devastating. But if you're a Clipper fan, it's absolutely heart wrenching.
Look, I've been on record many times, being truthful about my dislike of the Clippers franchise as a whole. But I do not want this to happen. I don't want the Clippers to go out like this. The truth is, I'm a basketball fan first, and I want to see the best of the best play each other night in, night out without the worry of any injury. With that being said, this is obviously devastating news to all the Clippers fans hearing and listening. My condolences go out to you, and especially to Kawhi's teammates and Kawhi himself. Let's be frank, this is an incredibly devastating injury. The series was pretty even going into game 5. The results in games 3 and 4 was kind of expected. Two really closest games in games 1 and 2, and the blowouts in 3 and 4. Like, yeah, it was natural for that to happen. Game 5 was going to be the series defining game. But the truth is, the series has definitely become the embodiment of this whole NBA season. It's a war of attrition. See who is healthiest. We kind of saw this in the Lakers Sun series. Donovan Mitchell is getting healthier. He's rubbing that ankle injury off at the right time. Kawhi Leonard is, let's face it, like this practically ends the Clippers for this entire season. The season is practically done. Paul George, we call him Pandemic P for a reason. Kawhi Leonard he was the heart and soul of the team. Now, he isn't a great leader. He is the heart and soul of this team. He was the one that makes things work. And Pandemic P, he's shown that throughout his career, he can't be counted on. So this Clipper team is unfortunately going to fall apart really quickly. Expect blowouts. Do not be surprised if blowouts occur in games 5 and 6 because Utah is going to win this series in 6. They're going to the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
I mean, Very tough to see. You know, it seems like every team has at least an injury or two to a key player. So hoping that it's not as serious as it seems to be. I'm gonna have to disagree with the Clippers getting blown out. I'm gonna have to agree with the Jazz winning the series. Of course, now with Kawhi Leonard out, but Clippers had players stepping up. You know, I know that they could lean on Kawhi Leonard for the most part, but a lot of their players have been stepping up, and we have to also look at the Utah Jazz. If you get Rudy Gobert into foul trouble, Donovan Mitchell, you talk about him being healthy, but he's been limping these last couple of games. He's not healthy. That ankle injury is taking a toll on him for sure. And we still have Mike Conley out. And if you look back at last game, Utah's offense was pretty stagnant at times, not really fluid like we've seen in the regular season. And I made note of this on Twitter earlier this week that Mike Conley makes a difference when it comes to that, but he doesn't look like he's coming back to the series. And when you only have your starting lineup in Jordan Clarkson really impacting the game. You have Derek Favors out there for 25 minutes, doesn't get a stat, he gets 2 boards. That's about it. And your Clippers team has Reggie Jackson showing up and Luke Kennard showing up, and Marcus Morris can have a great game out of nowhere. And you still have DeMarcus Cousins on the bench, and you do still have playoff Rondo. I don't see it being a blowout. I see this can still go to what is it? It's 2-2. So I still see this can potentially go up to game 6 at least with the Jazz winning. Because yeah, I see it going to game 6. I think that's game 5 is next. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you talked about players stepping up. In the last few games, Paul George and Kawhi, they were like the Bash brothers, right? The Basham, well, not the Bash brothers,
Yeah.
but the Basham brothers, right? If you remember WWE, or like they were Edge
Yeah.
and Christian almost. They were just wrecking shop, right? Because in game 3, Kawhi had 34 and Paul George had 31. In game 4, PG and Kawhi both had 31 before Kawhi left with an injury. It seemed like they were, rounding out into form, into the team that most people expected them to be. And especially since after Donovan Mitchell torched the Clippers in game 1 and 2, Ty Lue decided to put Kawhi on Donovan Mitchell. And in game 3, he had 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists, but shot 11 of 24. In game 4, Donovan Mitchell had 37, 5, and 5, but the Jazz still lost. And even though Kawhi was guarding Donovan Mitchell, and they were trapping him almost after he passed half court, almost every single time, Donovan Mitchell just shows up and just shows you that he can get it done even if no one else can. And so, that being said, you guys mentioned the Jazz winning in about 6, right? I have the Jazz winning in 7 because there's no way that the Clippers would lose that easily, I guess. Pride is now a factor in this game, right? In this series.
I just don't trust Paul George and this Clippers supporting cast from what we saw in the Nuggets series last year. Paul George has a history of crumbling under intense pressure, and he is under the most pressure he's ever been in a Clipper uniform. The leader is gone. He's gone.
Right. And I guess this would be the perfect time for Paul George to step up and be the de facto leader. If he can do that or not remains to be seen, but I'm going to be optimistic and say the Clippers take game 6, but lose games 5 and 7, just to be fair. Because I know we talk a lot of garbage about the Clippers, but you never want to see this. And I just want to give some good vibes to the Clippers because they are feeling some type of way, obviously. Because if it's confirmed, right? Super confirmed that Kawhi has like a torn ACL, he's out for his age 30 season. So the next time we'll see him is probably going to be what, 22, 23, right?
And
Perhaps.
I hate to say this, and knock on wood, all of that, but this Clipper curse is crazy, bro. It is crazy.
No
It's
doubt.
real.
It's really wild.
Yeah, I mean, no, go ahead.
I mean, you got PG-13, that number 13, Friday the 13th. I don't know. Yeah, I don't see playoff P doing much. Like Daniel said, that intense pressure, he's going to crack. Unfortunately, diamonds don't come from PG-13 when that pressure is put on them.
Yeah, I mean, it could, right? We never know. But another thing that diamonds can't come from is COVID-19. And that's a weird segue, I know. But another explosive piece of news that I didn't expect was the fact that CP3 is out indefinitely after he got placed in the league's safety protocols pertaining to COVID-19. It's weird because players can be placed in these health and safety protocols because of a positive test or got exposed to someone who was positive with COVID-19. We don't necessarily know which camp CP3 falls under because he has been vaccinated and there's very little news coming out about the situation. But as it stands right now, he could potentially miss this at least the start of the Western Conference Finals and maybe even the entire Western Conference Finals as a whole. And just thoughts on that because I know that must be devastating for Chris Paul knowing that this is the his one shot, right? Everyone seems to be falling apart. The Suns seemingly are on a roll. His shoulder's getting better, and then all of a sudden he could potentially miss the biggest series of his career because of something completely out of his control.
Look, before this news came out, I had the Phoenix Suns advancing to the NBA Finals. It's just this, especially the recent sweeping of the Denver Nuggets. It was a testament how Chris Paul, it was a tribute to how great he was and how much step forward Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton have taken their games. Devin Booker has completely shown that he's flat out one of the best scorers in today's game of basketball. With that being said, this is a young team, and young teams tend to depend on what? Veteran leadership. Chris Paul is clearly the X factor here. And what happens the next round to Phoenix will depend on hugely on how many games Chris Paul misses out. If Chris Paul misses the first 3 games of the Western Conference Finals, I hate to say it, Phoenix, like your great postseason run is going to come to an end. I think because especially with Utah potentially advancing the next round, Utah has much more depth than Phoenix does, and Donovan Mitchell is a superstar. So it's going to be the next round is going to be a potentially rough series. It could go up to 7 games, but only if Chris Paul is there. If Chris Paul is not there, it's going to be a 5-game or 6-game series if Utah advances the next round. So Chris Paul is their leader, and losing him is losing basically your whole leadership. So I'm sorry to the listeners. We're starting this podcast on a sour note, but that's just how life is sometimes.
Yeah. And G, really quickly, it's something that I can equate that to is Devin Booker and CP3, they're kind of like the legs, right? And now that CP3 is gone, how are the Phoenix Suns going to be able to stand? Especially considering like most of these guys are very, very, very young, right? Who on their roster can we name that's have been to the playoffs like that?
Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder went to the finals. Dario Saric, right? But that's about it. Everyone's still a young guy, and Chris Paul's been to the Western Conference Finals in 2018. 2018 lost to the Warriors, but yeah, I mean they need that veteran leadership that he brings.
So I want us to point out how big of an impact Chris Paul is. I know that it doesn't necessarily always have to be stats. And what a big example is Chris Paul was the All-NBA selection for averaging 17 points a game when we got Russell Westbrook averaging triple-double, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell. But won't get into that. Chris Paul.
We will later.
Chris Paul will still have an impact on the squad. We've seen in the games and first round with the Lakers where Chris Paul was not the same Chris Paul. 9 points here, shoulder was messed up, and we had players stepped up. I understand there's some concern to be had with him not playing, but they've been in a situation before. They're not going to not have Chris Paul the entire next round. They have a week off. Am I mistaken that? They have a week off, right?
So if the Jazz series ends in 6, they would play the first game, I think, on Sunday. And then if it ends in 7, they'll play on Tuesday.
Okay, so that's still a good amount of days. He tested positive this morning, or was it yesterday?
So the news was announced this morning. He didn't. Here's the thing. If he tested positive for COVID and he was unvaccinated, he would have to be out for 2 weeks at least. But because he's vaccinated, he has to produce 2 negative tests within a really, I think, like 2 or 3 day span. And then after that, he has to go through a battery of lung tests to make sure that his lungs and his heart can actually play because they don't want anyone dying, right? Because nobody knows what the effects of COVID are on an athlete. So they want to make sure that his lungs and everything else is in working order, and that can take however many days, at least 2 to 4 days.
So we're looking at maximum 7 days here, right? We're looking at 5 to 7 days if all cards are in his favor. So knock on
Fingers
wood, fingers
crossed.
crossed,
Yeah.
prayers up. So that's 5 days from now. We're Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So at best, he misses one game. So we're talking about 3 games. That's half the series. I doubt that happens. Let's say our prayers for Chris Paul. The Suns have an edge. Not only with Chris Paul, with Devin Booker. You've seen Devin Booker. I talked about Trae Young being the villain, the bad guy in the series. Devin Booker is that guy. You see how he's going up against the Lakers. He's talking that smack Kendall Jenner in the stands. Shout out to Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Anyways, no Kardashian curse for him. Obviously, that hasn't been affecting him. But we've seen how Devin Booker has been attacking these other squads, even in the second round. So I think that edge that the Phoenix Suns have, Monty Williams has installed it in them. Chris Paul has installed it in them this whole series. You got Jay Crowder still out there. I think if they continue to play like how they've been playing, with or without Chris Paul, Devin Booker has been playing outstandingly good. We're overlooking how much of an impact DeAndre Ayton has been, not only just scoring, but also rebounding, defense, and just playing and excelling in his role. And I think that's what makes this Phoenix Suns team a little different. Everyone knows and understands their role, and they're excelling in it. We've seen the Utah Jazz kind of fumble. The Phoenix Suns haven't really fumbled the bag too much. I know that they lost the 2 games against the Lakers, but let's look at those games. They still played their game. They still fought. Even if they were missing shots, Jay Crowder was still guarding LeBron to the best of his abilities. So there's something different about this Phoenix Suns squad. And I'm looking at the Utah Jazz and how they're playing. Of course, Donovan Mitchell, Spider Mitchell is an amazing player. And of course, the Utah Jazz have a better team on paper. But if I go out there or outwork you and I have somebody that can score 45, 50 points like Devin Booker, and I still have a 1-2 punch to DeAndre Ayton, my money is on the Suns. With Chris Paul, there, of course, I'm going with the Suns. And I guess I just been made into a believer after they beat the Lakers. But even without Chris Paul for this first couple of games, my money's still on the Phoenix Suns in the next round.
That's
regardless
difficult.
of who they play.
Yeah, because if they play the Jazz, really quickly, Daniel, if they play the Jazz, it's going to be an even series. If they play the Clippers, it's going to be a very lopsided series.
Because the Jazz are still without Mike Conley, and we still don't have a timetable for that. And you see how stagnant that offense is. The Phoenix Suns, they're young, but that inexperience can be a good thing or a bad thing. And for this playoff series, it's been a good thing because they don't have anything to lose. They have everything to gain here. And they've been sound defensively. And playoffs, defense means something. We seen what James Harden did to Giannis last night with the fadeaway shot. So I'm going with the Suns. You can mark that now. So Relly Rail said it here first on the Shooting Bricks podcast. Regardless of who's coming in the Western Conference, Phoenix Suns are making it to the finals.
It can be noted that, Chris Paul, even if he doesn't play, he can still lead the team off the bench. But there's a clear and obvious difference between when you have your leader on the floor and opposed to when he's off the floor. So I have doubts if Phoenix can pull through. Chris Paul is the guiding hand to this team. He's like teaching your kids, bicycle lessons, and Chris Paul is literally the training wheels. So without having Chris Paul on the floor, you're taking those training wheels off. And I just think Donovan Mitchell, if the Jazz advance to the next round, has more playoff experience than a lot of guys on this Phoenix Suns team. So, and plus in my opinion, Donovan Mitchell is a better player than Devin Booker or DeAndre Ayton. And he's shown this postseason that he's willing to take the limelight and the clutch shots. So I don't know. I have serious doubts if the Jazz go into the series against a Chris Paul-less Phoenix Suns team. I have doubts that Phoenix can really put up a strong enough fight.
That's a lot of pressure to put on Donovan Mitchell, and I understand where you're coming from as far as overall, but I feel like Devin Booker has had a better postseason than Donovan Mitchell. Do you not see the numbers and the efficiency that he's putting up?
True.
Now, all of the stuff that you've been saying as far as the impact that Chris Paul has, it feeds into him being on the bench. Like, you're not saying he's out here scoring a heck of a lot of points. Even on a closeout game, he did score 37 points and he did his stuff. But for the most
Absolutely.
part, it's a lot of mental stuff that you're talking about. I'm sitting here and saying that the Phoenix Suns are dangerous because of their edge, because of their mentality. Chris Paul is only reinforcing that. I'm not putting it all on him because Devin Booker has had that mentality ever since the bubble. We saw it. This Phoenix Suns is a different team. Although they didn't go to the postseason last year, that bubble experience has shifted this organization to unforeseen sights now, because they're on their heights now, because now they are in a position to be in the they're in the Western Conference, and now they're in a position to almost make it to the finals. So that edge, which we've been seeing all playoff long, I haven't seen a squad with this edge that the Phoenix Suns have. They took out the reigning champions in the Los Angeles Lakers. The only thing that's stopping them is you saying Chris Paul. And we got to also factor in Donovan Mitchell isn't 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's been battling like that ankle injury since what, the first round?
Exactly. And their offense is hella stagnant, and the Phoenix Suns has better defense, even though they're inexperienced. So there's a lot of positives that I'm just seeing that the Phoenix Suns have. So I understand where you're coming from, Daniel, but still going with the Suns.
Yeah. And just a few more points here on CP3 before we head over to the East. It's interesting because CP3 averaged 25 points on 62, 58, and 100% shooting in the 4-game sweep. And he had a 41-5 assist to turnover ratio. That is just incredible. I don't think anyone's ever had something. Yeah, we should not like detract anymore. And I know there are some people out there that would say that Chris Paul doesn't deserve to be a Hall of Famer. Shout out to whoever you are, you know who you are. But
yes, we know who we're talking about.
shout out to him, you know who you are. But he is a bona fide Hall of Famer at this point. Even if he doesn't win a ring, right? Even if he doesn't Yeah, exactly. Even if he doesn't win a ring or whatever happens, just the impact that he's had on every team that he's been on, you just can't see it on the box sheet, the box score, right? It goes deeper than that. Like if you look at the Thunder last year, they had like a 4%, less than a 5% chance of making it to the playoffs, and they made it to the playoffs and almost beat the Rockets. I mean, if that doesn't tell you anything about CP3 and greatness, I don't know what will. But speaking of greatness, guys, I'm pretty sure we all saw that incredible shooting game, let's just put it like that KD had, right? It was a weird game 5 because it looked like the Bucks were about to destroy the friggin' Brooklyn Nets, but then out of nowhere, KD comes back. And he puts up 49 points, 17 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, shooting 69.6%, nice, playing all 48 minutes. Can you believe that? This dude just came off an Achilles tear not too long ago, and he's the first player in NBA history to have at least 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists in the playoffs. That's not all. He had a hand in 65% of all the Nets' points. He scored or assisted on 74 of the Nets' 114 points. So much so that it got to the point where there was no point in running an offensive set. Just give it to KD, get the hell out of the way, and just watch him go to work. And just watching this on the other side, Giannis said post-game that KD is, quote, the best player in the world right now. Speaking of Giannis, he did his thing as well. He got 34, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. And he, quote, wants to take on the challenge of guarding KD, which there's a lot to get into here, but it speaks to the point of why the hell hasn't he been guarding KD since game 1? And I don't know where you guys want to start, but let's start with KD's incredible game, because James Harden came back. He played 46 minutes, but only had 5 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, shooting 1 of 10 and 0 of 8 from 3. And we know that Kyrie's out because he twisted his ankle very, very badly, and we don't know what's going to happen to him. So the Nets are anticipating Kyrie's going to be gone for the rest of the series. But yeah, KD just putting up a performance for the ages. Thoughts?
Kevin Durant literally saved the Brooklyn Nets season last night, because coming into the game, it was all in Milwaukee's favor. Kevin Durant showcased last night why he is one of the best offensive talents to come in NBA history in general. But not to take off the shining, the greatness of Kevin Durant in his recent performance, but This loss was completely on Coach B, Coach Budenholzer. This loss is completely on him. Look, think about watching this game. Milwaukee had control of the game up until the third quarter, and Brooklyn went on a 15-5 run. Coach Budenholzer has proven, and this moment is the sticking point, that he is not a good postseason coach. He's a good coach, but not a great coach. He's on Mike D'Antoni's level. Great in the regular season, trash in the postseason. He's definitely not one of the greats. Think about the great coaches in history. Once they saw once they saw the Nets 15-5 run, they would have adjusted immediately. Coach B has shown throughout that he is unwilling to make any adjustments. Why hasn't Giannis guarded KD since game one? Giannis should have been on KD's ass since the very beginning. The fact that he cannot make any adjustments whatsoever, screams to me that he is not a championship caliber coach and that he should be fired once this season is done, because Brooklyn, in my opinion, probably won the chip last night. So this loss is completely on Coach B and on the Bucks in general. They literally choked. I mean, with James Harden, we all know that he scored 5 points, but he's coming off an injury. Do not expect a 5-point James Harden in Game 6. James Harden's going to be back to his normal self. The Brooklyn Nets are going to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow night in Milwaukee. Guarantee.
So, really quickly, 2 points. I was on StatMuse on Twitter, and in this series, Giannis has not defended KD at all. Like, not once. He's not there. I don't know why that's a thing. And also, shout out to DJ Layton. We had him on the podcast a few months ago for being right that KD is the best in the world. But go ahead, G.
Best in the world right now because he is playing in the playoffs. I had to put that 2 cents in there, but I know why. I know why Giannis is not guarding KD, because KD makes Giannis look like the Greek geek. He's going to make him look foolish. We've seen this. We've seen the highlights of Kevin Durant hitting him with the little head fake, having Giannis jumping all over the place. This is what I'm thinking Mike Budenholzer is thinking. I'm not trying to get Giannis into foul trouble because this is my offense. I agree with you, Daniel. A lot of the blame has to be on Mike Budenholzer, but a lot of the blame has to be on Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. There's 4 key moments in the fourth quarter. I'm not even talking about the run by the Nets. KD is a phenomenal player. I'm not going to say offensive player. He is a phenomenal player. He's one of the greatest NBA players of all time. Fuck this offense all around. He just played 48 minutes as a 32. How old is he? 33 years old.
32.
Come on now. All around, he is an amazing player. We try to knock his defense because he's such a great offensive player. He had 3 steals and 2 blocks. Stats don't mean everything, but in this case, it does mean everything. But 4 key moments in the fourth quarter, and I mentioned this on Twitter as well, so y'all need to be active on the Twitter. We tired of tweeting out stuff, and y'all not out there saying stuff, and y'all listening to the podcast. Engage with us. Let's have these conversations, have these discussions. Anyways, back to my point. 4 key moments where Giannis shot that fadeaway jumper against James Harden. What are you doing? Go get your ass in the gym. Go train with Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, freaking Tim Duncan. Go do something. Stop dancing in Cabo with your trash-ass brothers, Donis and freaking Alex Antetokounmpo, because how is that going to get you better as a player? I'm tired of this, Giannis, bro. I am a Greek freak fan, but you shooting a fadeaway jumper like you're Dirk Nowitzki is not your game. You have a fucking 6'5", 220-pound James Harden on you who can play position defense. He could sit there and take the bumps on his beer belly. That's thing number 1. Thing number 2, for lack of better terms right now, was he went 1 for 2 at the free throw line. You're taking all your time, bro. I don't care that you're getting made fun of on Twitter. You better take your fucking 10 seconds, bro, while you're rushing your free throws. He did that twice. Then Chris Middleton actually set you up for an easy bucket. And now all of a sudden you turn it to Kwame Brown. Kwame Brown, and you fumble the ball. Get Kwame Brown on this podcast too. We're going to tag you on this because we want you on here too. Talk your shit, bro. Anyways, I blame Giannis. I blame Mike Budenholzer because like Daniel said, the run happened. This is NBA. This is the Brooklyn Nets. They have a high-power offense. You have one of the best players ever on the opposing side, and you cannot make adjustments. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo running your offense, initiating your offense. He is not LeBron James. He is a Shaq build. Why is he running the offense? Tell me this, and Jarrod and I had this discussion on Twitter as well. How many times did Drew Holiday touch the ball in the fourth quarter? Why did you send 35 picks, 12 players for a player that's not even going to touch the ball in the fourth quarter? I'm not saying run a play for him to score, but touch the damn ball. The Bucks, I'm not even a Bucks fan, bro, but I sit there and watch that whole game and I was pissed the fuck off. Just like Daniel said, Nets are going to the finals and it's conference finals at least, because I feel like if the 76ers are healthy, they have a chance because nobody's stopping Joel Embiid. But they're going to the conference finals. The Bucks, I called it. I said they were going to get swept. They proved me wrong here, but you know why I said they were going to get swept, because shit like this. They got lucky that first game where they won 87-86. They should have lost.
Yeah. And shout out also to Dylan, who is a Bucks fan. He was having he was going through everything last night. I mean, I was talking to him on Twitter. He was just going through a whole lot of things because he's a Bucks fan, and just watching them melt down like that, man, he was feeling some type of way. Hope you feel better, buddy. But yeah, the Bucks, like you mentioned, G, we were talking about this. There were so many times when Giannis had, James Harden or Jeff Green just on his left shoulder. They were leaning into him, and he would just kept backing down on that same side. He didn't spin because if he did, it was an open layup, but he doesn't have that in his game. And that's what makes me kind of irritated, because he has all the skill in the world. If he just knew to spin around, he would have gotten 4 or 5 easy points, maybe more, right? Easy buckets. And the the whole Drew Holiday situation, like, he is, I don't know, I don't even know, honestly, because he's been in and out of the games. Like, I think he had 19 last night, which is fine, I guess. But I don't know with Coach Bud. I mean, if if and when he does get fired,
He
who would
will.
yeah,
Yep.
if and when, who would replace him? Because w- I'm just throwing this out to you guys, completely random, I know, but I don't. I'm trying to see what coach can develop something that quickly. Maybe Terry Stotts.
Here's my
Maybe,
thoughts on the
right?
coaching situation in Milwaukee. That the potential, well, the inevitable coaching vacancy that's about to happen. They're gonna need someone that's very experienced, very established. I know it's kind of vague, but that's what they need. They can't rely on a young up and coming coach. They need someone with a lot of experience before, who may have coached a lot of teams. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen, but they're going to need. I mean, the most ideal is Milwaukee lands a John Calipari type of coach who has deep experience with this game. That's the
Right.
only way the Bucks are going to pull off a championship. And second, they need a guard. They need to go after aggressively trade for either a Bradley Beal, or if Portland is open to it, which we all have our doubts. It's all of a mixed feeling. Damian Lillard. So Milwaukee's has got to be aggressive going forward if they are to win a championship with this window.
Yeah. G.
I honestly don't know. You can go with an experienced coach. You can go with an unexperienced coach and still have an impact. We've seen coaches from the collegiate level make the jump, Brad Stevens, and make an impact instantly. So there's players that are former players that are coaches, and I feel like can still make an impact on a team. So it's all about fit. It's all about fit. I don't care what your resume is looking like. If the coach can fit and develop something for the squad, then it is what it is. As far as them being able to aggressively go after a superstar caliber player, well, good luck with that. You don't have any assets. Why are you going to trade 30-year-old players for another 30-year-old player? And you think that's going to do something? Like I don't see them getting Bradley Beal. I don't see them getting Damian Lillard. I don't see them getting. I don't see them getting anybody. They should have kept Malcolm Brogdon from the beginning, and this would have been a different story.
Absolutely. And you know, with all that being said, we're talking about the Bucks Net series. Just last question before we move on to the last topic here. If, let's say, Steve Nash wins this series and wins the conference finals and then wins the finals, is he this season's Ty Lue?
That's a
Like,
hard question.
do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, in a way, yes, but I would have to.
Yes.
I'm gonna lean yes because, like, in both cases, they got incredibly lucky. Like Ty Lue, let's be honest, when he got hired and David Black got tossed, Like Ty Lue hit the lotto.
Yeah. With
Steve Nash. Steve Nash had the exact situation hit him. Like Brooklyn got caught in a blockbuster trade, and he benefited from it. So yeah, I could definitely see that.
fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. It's a lucky situation. And I'm gonna be a little pessimistic here. I don't want the Nets to win, but I don't want them to win because how they constructed their squad, and it's the first season of them all being together. But yeah, it's a Ty Lue situation. I agree.
Well, we'll see what happens because, like you mentioned, the 76ers, they're unstoppable if Joel Embiid is playing because no one can stop Joel Embiid except for his own body. The series is tied 2-2. It was an ugly shooting. What, game four was it? I mean, the Hawks barely won. Joel Embiid had that. He missed the layup, and then Ben Simmons had the turnover, which is really something you would not expect from the two best players. But they've, like I said, Joel Embiid's been unstoppable this series. There's no one really that can stop him except for his own body. And, shout out to Trae Young for doing what he can to help lead the Hawks because he was the youngest player in NBA history to tally up 18 assists in a playoff game. And so, thoughts on this series? It's
The
it's a
series,
it's a series. It's not fun. It is what it is for me personally. But
I mean, obviously, it's more fun than what Philly had in the first round. But I mean, I digress. This series, like I said before last week, this series hinges completely on Joel Embiid's body. If he's not healthy, this Philadelphia team crumbles beside him because Ben Simmons can't shoot a three for his life. Uh, Trey, I think this Trey Young continues to prove that he best offensive talents in the game. I just don't think he has the help sufficient enough around him, or his help has the sufficient experience to carry this Hawks team to the next round. I just don't think Atlanta is there yet in terms of experience. So this is Philly's series to lose. I just think Joel Embiid has to check on his body each night, each morning to see whether it's okay because this whole team is literally on his shoulders. So I still think the Sixers are going to win the series in six alone. I just think this Phillies supporting cast is still much better than Atlanta's. So it's Phillies Philly has my pick to go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
yeah, that makes sense.
So just to piggyback, Trae Young is the youngest player in NBA history to tally up 18 assists. And I think he's the second player in NBA history in the postseason to have 25 points and 18 assists. Shout out to Tim Hardaway Sr. And you should like that too because he played for the Warriors, right,
Absolutely.
Jarrod? But yeah, I think the issue here is Joel Embiid has the Anthony Davis syndrome when it comes to he can't stay off the floor. And I watched last game, like, bro, you 7 foot 280. You don't get your big ass off the floor. Why you keep dropping to the floor? You're not Dwayne Wade. Why you keep crashing on the floor? That's how he's going to get injured. So I think they need to stop playing with their food. Of course, the Hawks are inexperienced, and they just need to end this series. End this series off so y'all can get y'all rest and prepare for that battle of the Brooklyn Nets because that's going to be a lot. But yeah, I have the 76ers winning this, and I'm not going to go with 6 games. I'm going to say, because they keep playing around, I'm going to say 7 games. I'm going to say Trae Young, John Collins, and Clint Capella somehow get another win.
Yeah, and plus we don't know what'll happen with Embiid because he could be fine, and then the next, in the second quarter, he could tweak an ankle and then be out for the next game and a half. So
Right.
you never know. I'll say Sixers and 7, just to play it safe, because I don't trust the Hawks to win, even though I appreciate what they've done. I don't think they have the wherewithal to do it just yet. Because I mean they've overachieved so far, and I don't think they can continue to overachieve. But I mean that's not a knock on them. That just shows that Philly is that much better of a team.
Right.
But that being said, just some quick hitters here before we wrap things up. So we haven't talked about the Mavs in a while, and there's just been a whole bunch of stuff that's happened with the Mavs since getting eliminated by the Clippers. I don't know if you guys saw, but a few weeks ago after the Mavs got eliminated, Mark Cuban said that he won't fire Rick Carlisle. And, that's interesting because no one really would think about firing Rick Carlisle. And then the next piece of news that came out was that Kristaps Porzingis felt like an afterthought as opposed to being a co-star according to ESPN. And when you watch the Mavs offense in that series against the Clippers, it kind of explains why, because more often than not, the Mavericks played the James Harden style Rockets offense. Just give the ball to Luca, stand around, watch, see what happens. If he kicks it out to you with 2 seconds left, take a shot, drive it in, get a foul, whatever. And that's not conducive to a championship, because we've seen it with the Harden Rockets. It didn't work. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. He did say, KP did say that his game needs to evolve, and whatever that means, I don't know, because he's regressing as a defensive player. He's regressing as an offensive player, and so I don't know how his game would evolve. Plus, that contract, nobody wants it. Like, he has, I think, what, $100 million left for 3 years, something like that, for a new age Andre Bargnani.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a good comparison for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at least with him, he tried, but it is what it is. And even though Lucas said that right after the Mavericks were eliminated, he would sign the Supermax extension, he has been dissatisfied with some members of the Mavericks front office, to the point that GM Donnie Nelson has, quote, decided to part ways with the Mavs, according to Shams. And so, just really quick thoughts on the weird dissension going on in Dallas, because people say that they can, Luca will stay, but then after that contract ends, he's going to dip, because there was this gambler that Luca doesn't like that was hired by Mark Cuban, and they've just been butting heads ever since. So there's a lot of layers to this story. But yeah, quick thoughts on the Mavericks drama.
Long term, I'm gonna have to say this. There's a chance. I'm not saying it's a short term. I'm saying it's long term for a reason. So we're talking, like, when I say long term, we're talking like 5-7 years. There's a chance that Luka Doncic in the far future could actually leave Dallas, because look at that. Look at the Mavericks' history. They had Dirk Nowitzki. What did he struggle throughout his tenure there as a Dallas Mav? They failed to get him a second star. Dallas is not it's not the smallest market, but it's not the biggest market either. And when you have market limitations in the NBA, the more limitations you have, the harder it is to get stars. And I think Dallas is going to have the same problem with Luka as the years go on. They're going to struggle to get him a co-star. And as far as thinking of co-star, don't be surprised if Dallas never really gets a co-star along with Luka Doncic that actually works. They tried that with Kristaps Porzingis, but unfortunately, he has become an example of how injuries can ruin someone's career. Kristaps Porzingis is no longer the all-star we thought he was coming into this league. So I think there's a lot of drama going on in Dallas. I think KP, for the most part, at least on the surface level, he's definitely gone. Short-term wise, he's going to be gone pretty soon. Whether that happens this offseason or the beginning of next year, I'm predicting he's going to be off soon. I think Rick Carlisle is on a limited, leash. He's had so many chances so far, so the pressure is only going to mount. But Luka's here for the long term. But there could be a point in time where Luka gets dissatisfied enough that he leaves via free agency. So crazy times ahead for the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I could see that.
KP feels like an afterthought, because how are you 7'2", 7'3", and you're still listed as a power forward? That's the issue right there, bro. You gotta toughen up, bro. You gotta be a 5. But yeah, I think the Dallas Mavericks have done a solid job with surrounding Dirk Nowitzki with stars. They may have been later in their careers, but they've been stars in their own roles. We've seen Juwan Howard, we've seen Michael Finley, we've seen Steve Nash, we've seen Jason Kidd, and I'm gonna talk about Jason Kidd. When they actually won the finals with Jason Kidd on their squad, as well as Tyson Chandler, that formula is what the Dallas Mavericks need to work on. Fuck the co-star. You don't need it. You need players that excel in their roles so much that we don't consider them role players. Tyson Chandler was Defensive Player of the Year. He's technically a role player, right? But he was Defensive Player of the Year when they won that championship, right? We had Jason Kidd on the twilight of his career, right? But he was still putting up triple doubles every once in a while. We had the Jet, we had Jason Terry. He was efficient. He was hitting threes. We had so many players that
Peja Stojakovic,
that, and Sean Marion as well, that excelled in their roles. That's what the Dallas Mavericks need to find. They need to formulate a team around Luka Doncic that allows Luka Doncic to be Luka Doncic, but also has reliable players. So that five, if the Dallas Mavericks had a prime Dwight Howard, oh my Lord Jesus, have mercy, this would be crazy. Because those pick and rolls, those putback dunks, that's the type of the build, or a Tyson Chandler type of build that they need at five. Not a freaking 6'8" Dwight Powell. He's cool for coming off the bench. They had solid key contributors. I feel like Seth Curry was a great addition for this team, and they got rid of him for Josh Richardson. I guess they were looking at 2K like he was a 3-and-D guy, but Seth Curry actually worked. And for a moment, I think Trey Burke even worked for coming off the bench, just that spark. So they've had players that were efficient, that showed up. Tim Hardaway is one of those players. They need to hold on to him, because he could be the ultimate sixth man for the squad, or he can be alongside Luka Doncic. But I think if the Mavericks are able to get that formula that they had, that winning formula that they had in 2011, and reciprocate that here, I think they'll be fine with keeping Luka. I don't think he's going to leave. He's going to be loyal. I think he's going to be loyal. He's not leaving the Mavericks. Everybody's loyal nowadays, unless they're a snake.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. We went almost the entirety of the podcast, and all of a sudden, except KD, he's snake. But I mean, we'll see what happens with the Mavericks. I definitely wasn't expecting this news to pop up this morning that the Mavericks were going through their bit of an issue. But that being said, a little bit more of an issue. The Pelicans fire Stan Van Gundy after going 31-41 in his first season. Teresa Weatherspoon and Fred Vinson are likely replacements, along with Ime Udoka, Jack Vaughn, Charles Lee, and Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd's getting thrown out there a lot. They really want him. They really want him to spill his drink on the court to get an extra timeout. But anyways, yeah, Scott Brooks is also out in Washington after the team couldn't agree to a new deal per Woj. And yeah, lastly, we'll end things off here. The all-defensive and all-NBA teams were announced. Just a few names here for the all-defensive teams. For the first team, we have Rudy Gobert, Ben Simmons, Draymond Green, Drew Holiday, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. For the second team, we have Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, Matisse Thybulle, and Kawhi Leonard. Any thoughts on those teams? The all-defensive teams? Anyone got snubbed in your opinion? Really quick thoughts?
That's a solid, in my opinion, that was a solid lineup. So I don't really have any snubs in regards to that.
All right. G?
Neither do I. I don't pay too much attention, if I'm being honest with you, to defensive teams. But yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully you pay more attention to this. The all-NBA teams, because in the first team, we've got Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, and Kawhi Leonard. The second team, we've got CP3, Damian Lillard, Joel Embiid, Julius Randle, and LeBron James. In the third team, we've got Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Rudy Gobert, Jimmy Butler, and Paul George. Now, I feel like Devin Booker should have been on there. That's on any of the teams, probably replacing Jimmy Butler, because he missed almost a good portion of the season. He was injured, right? So he shouldn't be on there. But what do you guys think?
Devin Booker definitely needs more respect. I mean, obviously Chris Paul was literally the face of the Suns franchise this season, but Devin Booker was an instrumental part of that as well. I mean, Devin Booker has been this Phoenix franchise since he got drafted. So I think Devin Booker needs some respect here.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no doubt. What about you, G? What say you?
I guess when you said the Suns, it kind of burns your throat there a little bit, but no worries. Yeah, I agree with you guys with Devin Booker. I somewhat want to say Donovan Mitchell should be on this list, and I absolutely believe that Russell Westbrook should be on this list. He averaged a triple-double. He was able to get the Wizards to the 8th seed or to the playoffs. So I feel like Russell Westbrook is still getting his hate, but a triple-double is a triple-double, man. Come on now.
You know what? Looking at the list now, I think he could have taken Kyrie's spot.
I absolutely
Yeah,
agree.
because Kyrie went on his little sabbatical at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. I feel like it's either Kyrie or Jimmy Butler that could have been taken out for Devin Booker or Russell Westbrook, or Russell Westbrook. Because I mean, what? How is Jimmy Butler different from Russell Westbrook or Devin Booker? Same thing with Kyrie. Like how you could literally take those two players out and put those other two players in, and nothing would happen. Like who came up with this list? We want to talk. It was a bad list. Well, the first
Every
two
year,
teams are
man.
fine. The first two teams are fine. Maybe Julius Randle's kind of iffy, but and maybe CP3 too. But Kyrie and Jimmy Butler, whoever decided to put them on there, we got to talk. But yeah, any last things before we wrap things up?
And even Sabonis, bro. Like Sabonis could have potentially made this list as well.
I don't. Well,
I'll give it to him. He averaged what 20, 10, and what 6?
yeah. I think also they reward winning. That's why he's not on here. I mean,
What
Bradley
was the-
Beal, sure.
Yeah, they were still in the same situation, if not a little higher than the Wizards.
Yeah, they were in the play-in tournament and they got demolished. I think. No, wait. The Pacers demolished the
Hornets.
and then they lost to the Wizards. So there you go. But yeah. Any last thoughts before wrapping up on this garbage ass list?
Every year, these lists cause, arguments. Just saying.
That's true. But
Yeah, and Jason Tatum too.
Oh,
I look at it. Jason Tatum.
See that?
Yeah.
Jason Tatum should be on this list. I think what's happening is there's more talent in the league, and that's why I want to keep pushing for the All-Star game to have 15 selections for each conference rather than 12. But
right.
I don't know if we're gonna have a All-NBA 14. That's getting kind of wild there, but it's a lot of talent in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And also shout out to Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, and Draymond Green for committing to Team USA. G, you and I were having this conversation on who would be on the team. Well, at least we know those three would be. So
That's and those are 3 solid pieces for sure.
yeah, I mean, if Dame, like in international ball, if Dame drops 55 on like another country, not just an entire team, but an entire country, just imagine what would happen to his stock. My God, man. But that being said, make sure that you don't forget to subscribe to the Shooting Bricks podcast and leave a review on your platform of choice. It really helps us out. Lastly, make sure to follow us on @PodcastBricks on Twitter, @ShootingBricksPodcast on Instagram, and @TheShootingBricksPodcast on YouTube for all the news and the video of this episode of the Shooting Bricks podcast. And as always, I'm Jarrod Castillo.
I'm Daniel Nguyen, and hate to go off topic of basketball again. To Andrew S. of the Bachelorette, I just want to say I'm rooting for you. And joining me as well,
It's your boy, Gerrel Sells. Y'all keep tuning in every week and being amazing fans. And we'll see you on the social media. So follow us.
Absolutely. Follow us on social media. And with everything else, you can follow us on all of that stuff. But now we will see you guys next week.